Congress couldn't agree on whether to save the big three automakers, so should the administration now throw a financial lifeline on its own? Joining to discuss that, former Michigan Senator Don Riegel, who was the lead sponsor of the Chrysler Loan Guarantee Program back in 1979. He's Vice Chairman of Government Affairs at APCO Worldwide here in Washington. And from New York, Peter Schiff, President of Euro-Pacific Capital. He's also the author of the Little Book of Bull Moves in Bear Markets, How to Keep Your Portfolio Up When the Market is Down. And welcome to both of you this evening. Senator Riegel, I'll start with you. Did the White House have any choice but to step in here and offer to provide this assistance?
I don't think so. As we were chatting before coming on air, in the last 30 days in the United States, we've had 2,160,000 people lose their jobs and file for the first time for unemployment claims. I don't think even yet the country understands how serious the unemployment problem is. If the auto industry were to go down now, with a GM bankruptcy, say, leading the parade, over the next 12 months, you'd have another 3 million people, that's the estimate that I think is right, that would become unemployed, not just at GM, but all of the jobs connected to it across the 48 states in the continental United States. And that blow on top of what's already happening in the economy and no credit available for people to even buy cars, to speak of, would be something that we shouldn't tolerate. And I'm not surprised that the Bush administration feels like they've got to respond. It is a kind of emergency.
Peter Schiff, your take?
Well, I completely disagree. I mean, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs in this economy. That's inevitable right now. But the problem is if we prop up companies like General Motors and Chrysler, we're going to prevent people from getting viable jobs in the future. You know, and part of the whole credit problem is the reason that Americans can't borrow any more money to buy cars is because we're broke. You know, Americans shouldn't be buying more cars. We have plenty of cars. We need to find a way to make cars profitably and export them to people in other countries who can actually afford them without going deeper into debt. But I think a bigger problem is the legality of all this. What really bothers me is not the bad economics, but nobody is questioning the congressional authority. You know, where in the Constitution does it say that Congress can bail out private companies, guarantee the debt of private companies, buy stock in private companies, loan money to private companies? And now, not only has the Senate done the right thing in rejecting it, but now we have Henry Paulson, who's going to take the TARP money that he got under false pretense, and now he's going to override Congress, and he's going to bail these companies out anyway. I mean, imagine how you'd feel if you're a senator and you actually got conned into voting for the TARP, but you voted against the bailout, and now you're having that TARP money used to bail out the companies that you had the good sense to let go under.
Let Senator Riegel jump in on that.
It's very interesting. If you take the roughly $770 billion of the TARP, the amount of money they're talking about for the auto industry against the $770 billion yesterday was $14 billion. It's a tiny fraction of the amount.
It's still taxpayer.
That's just a camel's nose.
I understand.
Senator,
let me
just
finish, Peter. We did this with the Chrysler loan guarantees. Obviously, we have the legal authority to do it. We did it then. It worked very well.
Well, no, it was illegal then, and it's illegal now.
I think the authority is there, and I think the reason we have a government and the reason you have a president, and thank goodness, you know, we have one that's now showing some activity on this particular issue, is if you get a global meltdown, if you get a true economic crisis taking place, and I think we have one. I think this is by far the most serious problem we've had since the 1930s. I think, although it's the different case facts, it's every bit is alarming and dangerous, and we have to break this downward trajectory. And when I hear academic arguments, Peter, with all due respect, like I just heard you make, that isn't the real world. People have to live and work and survive in the real world.
Peter, go ahead.
And not with a lot of philosophy and jargon.
Senator, I'm in the real world. I predicted this crisis, so I know what's going on. And it's the government that caused it. Government is not the solution. And I beg to differ that the reason we have government isn't to interfere in the economy. I mean, the founding fathers are rolling over in their graves when they hear comments like that.
Of Wall Street. How was government responsible for the meltdown of Wall Street?
Because it was the Federal Reserve. It was the Federal Reserve that brought interest rates down to 1% and gave them all this cheap credit. It was the government that created Fannie and Freddie that gave birth to the housing problem.
Yeah, well, what did AIG,
this is a government problem.
And remember, with the money? And what did Lehman do with the money?
Let me jump in here, Peter. I want to pick up on something here because there are some people out there suggesting that the government stepping in here can actually force the kinds of concessions and changes in the auto industry that some people say have been long overdue. Why are you so convinced they can't do
the market would force that. What the government's going to do is prop it up and make possible. And, you know, they're talking about 14 or 15 billion. That's the camel's nose under the tent. This is going to be hundreds of billions before it's finished.
Well, Senator, how about that? This is going to be a lot more than 14 billion.
It'll be more
money.
than 14 billion. It will not be hundreds of billions. And I think,
sure it will.
I think you do have to get
over
the
the
people
next
around
5 or
the
10
table.
years.
I think you do. The president right now has the authority to do that. We only have one president at a time.
No, they don't have the authority. They might do it, but he doesn't.
Let me just finish, Peter. I listened to you. The president could convene the people around the table that have to be brought to the table, which we did in the Chrysler loan guarantee situation. That's not just the workers in the companies. It's the creditors. It's all the other parties of interest who will have to make concessions, have to agree to make changes, but you have to do it in a basis of a very short period of time. If you go into a bankruptcy situation right now, it's going to be like a cardiac arrest through this whole supply chain. And because the two biggest high-value added items that people buy now are houses and cars. And so if you cripple both of those industries at the same time, we'll turn this recession into a depression, and we can do that, and the purists will argue for that.
Peter, go ahead.
But that's not a smart answer. It's not in the national interest.
They're already crippled. Remember, Americans, for the past 5 or 10 years, we bought too many cars, we bought too many homes, we bought cars and homes we couldn't afford, and we're deep in debt as a result of doing it. We need to concentrate on making things and exporting. We don't need to buy more cars. That's the problem. And if we're ever going to have a viable manufacturing industry in this country, particularly for automobiles, the government needs to get out of the way. We need to let these companies restructure, and only the free market will restructure them competitively.
We've
so
just
that we can
seen
have
the
more
free
people
market,
employed
Peter. We've
making
watched
cars.
the free market work on
I'm going to
Wall
have to
Street.
jump
Didn't
in
do
here.
very well.
Peter Schiff, Don Riegel, thanks to both of you. Very healthy discussion here on Money and Politics. We're back in just a moment. Stay with us.